finally, on Wednesday, still in Strasbourg, President von der Leyen will participate in the Parliament's plenary debate in preparation for the European Council meeting of 19th to the 20th of March, as well as a debate on the geopolitical crisis in the Middle East. That's it for the agenda of the President. Puis, permettez-moi de vous rappeler que le commissaire Michael McGrath participera à la réunion du Conseil dans sa configuration Justice et Affaires intérieures qui se tient aujourd'hui. À l'ordre du jour figure le règlement relatif à la protection des adultes incapables de défendre leurs intérêts dans les affaires judiciaires transfrontalières et la lutte contre l'impunité de la Russie pour les crimes commis en Ukraine. Les ministres discuteront également des conclusions sur l'application de la Charte des droits fondamentaux de l'Union européenne et de la lutte contre la criminalité organisée, en particulier la question des membres d'organisations criminelles qui continuent à mener leurs activités illégales depuis leur prison. Le commissaire McGrath participera à la conférence de presse qui suivra la réunion vers 15 heures. Comme d'habitude, nous vous invitons à garder vos questions sur ces questions et sur la justice en général pour cette conférence de presse dédiée. Voilà pour nos annonces. Passons maintenant à vos questions. Here at the back. Is that Anna?
Yeah, now it's working. Hi, Ana Matos Neves with the Portuguese news agency Lusa. My question is for Eva. Portugal requested yesterday the activation of the civil protection mechanism. I wonder how much the Commission is co-financing these repatriation flights that Portugal is organizing. Also, overall, how many EU citizens have been repatriated from the Middle East so far? How many flights or how many citizens do you still foresee to repatriate? And what's the overall amount that the Commission is financing all of these operations? Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Anna, for the question. Yes, you are right. Portugal has activated the civil protection mechanism yesterday in the evening, and since then other countries have also made the same steps. So at this stage we have 17 countries who have already activated the civil protection mechanism, which means that there is a big operation ongoing and we are bringing European citizens back home to Europe. In terms of numbers, up till yesterday, this is up till yesterday because we want to talk about the flights that have already safely arrived to Europe. It's been 10 flights that brought citizens back to Europe, and it means it's over 1,000 of passengers. How does it work? How does it work for you if you are a citizen in the Middle East and you would like to get back home to Europe? It means that if you are a European citizen, you are never alone in crisis because we are always here for you, and you can get on board of a plane that is offered by another member state, and this is coordinated via consular authorities. So, for example, yesterday there was on social media an example of a Swedish family who managed to travel with 3 kids on board of another plane and get back to Europe. Even Sweden has not activated the mechanism, but obviously Sweden is a member state and part of the civil protection mechanism. What does it mean for the member states? It means that they can offer their flights, and if they offer at least 30% of the seats on board for the other EU nationals, then we can co-finance up to 75% of the costs. So it means that then we take also care of the organization of the flight, of the logistics, and we are connected with the consular authorities that prepare the passengers' lists.
Many thanks, Eva. We have a follow-up.
Regarding the Portuguese flights, do you have an idea about the co-financing? How much is the percentage of the any other EU nationalities on board? Because we know that I think already 2 or 1 flight has already arrived to Lisbon. Can you give me the percentage on those flights? Thank you so much.
I cannot give you the percentage regarding the Portuguese flights because I don't have these numbers. This is very technical problem. What I can say that basically the percentage of the co-financing mirrors the number of other EU nationals on board. As I said, we can go up to 75% if there are 30% of the seats reserved for other EU nationals. And obviously, if you are now at the Middle East and you want to get back to Europe, it's easier to go to any other capital than the capital of your country. And then when you are, for example, in Vienna, Prague, Lisbon, you can get easily back home to your destination.
Thank you, Eva. Do we have other questions on this specific topic for Eva? Je commence par Odile.
Well, Eva, the situation is not as ideal. You probably know that a French plane was not able to land to Dubai and had to return because of the yes. So, you know.
All know that the situation is not ideal. That's why we do not release any details, any further information about the organization of the flights, because this is all a question of security, and it's changing every hour. The situation is very fluid. So basically, we work with civil protection authorities in the member states. We work with the consular authorities, with the EU delegations in the Middle East. And the timing of the flights can obviously change, yeah.
Over to Musa.
Yes, this is a related question to this question. Eva, you mentioned, flights from the Middle East. I wonder if it could be a bit more specific, because I saw that most airports in the region, are closed because of the strikes and the Iranian counter-strikes. So from which countries' airports did these flights already have departed? From which airports did they take off? That could be interesting information for those who are stranded in the region.
The flights that were organized under our civil protection mechanism departed, for example, from Oman.
Thank you, Eva. I have a bunch of hands online, so are these questions for Eva? Keep your hand raised if so. Okay, I'll start with Jarno. No, Jarno's gone. I've got Maria Psara.
Hello, can you see me maybe? No.
We can hear you but not see you, and we must be able to see you.
I know.
Well, that's great, but it appears we're at an impasse. Okay, now we see you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the patience. Maria Psara with Cyprus Public TV. Eva, you mentioned that 17 countries have already energized this mechanism. Can you name these countries? I'm interested, obviously, on Cyprus and Greece. And the second question, clarification. These are specific flights, or flights that are organized exactly for the repatriation, or flights that normally were programmed from these capitals or cities, and the civil protection is trying to coordinate these repatriations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, on the system, how it works. The flights that can be organized under this European Civil Protection Mechanism, it can be commercial flights that basically the member state offers to the program of solidarity, offers to the other EU nationals, and then we deal with the transport operator. And as I said, we also work on the passengers lists and on the logistics and on the details. But it can be a flight of an ordinary transport operator, ordinary company. Also, some other countries, they are using their military flights or government flights, special flights. So it can be any kind of flight, basically. Regarding the 17 countries, I can come to all of you bilaterally and happy to confirm if your country has activated the mechanism or not.
Thanks, Eva. Do we have other questions on this topic for Eva? I don't see hands in the room. I still have Susanna online. Susanna.
Hello. Hi, Eva. Thank you for your help. So just because it was not clear to me, if you can help. So Portugal requested or activated the mechanism, but it's for one flight or more than one flight. And has this flight already take off from, I don't know if you know which country, because I didn't get it, or you were mentioning Oman, but I think it was not for Portugal, because as far as I know, those that landed in Portugal with the Portuguese people repatriated from Middle East were not in the context of the mechanism. Do you know if this specific operation has been done yet?
I need to check if the flight to Portugal has already landed. It was scheduled for these hours. I talked about the flights that have already landed in Europe. It was 10 flights organized under EUCPM, but it means that there are also more flights scheduled for next days. As I said, I don't want to give you the details because this is a question of security, and security of the European citizens is a priority for us. So we really do not disclose the details about the destinations, time schedules, etc.
Thank you, Eva. Susanna, do you have a follow-up?
Super quick. So, but it was only one flight that was requested from Portugal. And do you know if there are other Portuguese people taking places in or flying in other repatriation flights coming organized by other member states that also activated the mechanism?
We do not work on the passengers list. As I said, this is for consular authorities. For this, you would need to contact consular authorities of Portugal. They have the priorities. They have the list of people that are waiting in the Middle East. We just take care of them regarding transport back to Europe.
Thank you, Eva. And last question on this topic goes to Blaž.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Blaž Mohorčić with the Slovenian press agency. I would like to know, Slovenia also activated this mechanism. It already provided 5 flights to Slovenia. Do you maybe have information if any of those flights were co-financed by the EU from the mechanism? Thank you.
I can just confirm that Slovenia has activated the European Civil Protection Mechanism, which means that the flights will be co-financed. It works in both ways. Either we can finance the flight before organizing, or we can reimburse the member states after. I understand that now it's an operation ongoing, so we are in touch with the member states, and the member states will be reimbursed. The priority, obviously, now is to bring as many as possible European citizens back home to Europe.
Thank you very much, Eva, for that important reminder. Do we have other questions for Eva on the many topics she covered? I don't see hands. To other topics, who will I go to? Go here.
Do you hear me? Yes.
Yes, please.
Milana Golovany from Ukrainian media outlet Liga.net. You definitely know that Hungarian special forces seized an official Ashot Bank convoy with 75 million euros and gold from Austria. So I have two questions regarding this topic. The first one, how the Commission assess this behavior of EU member states? Can you name it as a terroristic act, as a whole situation? It's accompanied by rough demands from Hungary to resume gas supplies from Druzhba. And the second question, Hungary already announced it will expel the people, but say nothing about 75 million euros and the gold. Is it okay for EU member states to actually keep another state's assets while deporting people? Thank you.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Thank you very much for the question. We are aware of the media reports on this matter. We have no additional information on the reported events for now, and I therefore have no comments to offer at this stage.
Other questions on this topic for Marcus Vitali?
It's a follow-up, and it was a previous statement of Prime Minister of Hungary that he will not allow help for Ukraine and will not allow to gasoline get to Ukraine unless Ukraine did not restore Druzhba pipeline. How you assess this statement? Could they be connected with this detention of team of Ukrainian bank, and how you feel this scandal between candidate country Ukraine and member of EU Hungary, could it influence in some way support for Ukraine? Thank you.
Vitaly, thanks, but there's far too much hypothetical stuff going on in the question you've just asked. I mean, we're not going to go into speculation on these topics right now. As Marcus has said very clearly on the specific topic that was asked in the previous question, we're aware of it. We don't have more information to hand. When that changes, we might be able to say more. Right now, we can't. Are there other questions on this topic for Marcus? Please.
Thank you. I just would like to ask whether Ukraine contacted Commission with the demand for mediation, because as I'm aware, there are such plans to ask Commission to involve in the situation between Hungary and Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not aware of any such contacts having taken place.
Thanks, Marcus. But just to add, I mean, Marcus just said that this is quite fresh information. So, you know, let us... give us the time to find out more before you ask us questions on this. Okay, go ahead.
As far as we know, to our knowledge, Ukrainian ambassador to the European Union has already informed European External Action Service on that, so that's what we know from Kyiv, from the Ukrainian side, and my colleague just elaborated on that. So could I please elaborate on Hungary? So are you in touch with Hungarian authorities regarding this case? Thanks.
As we just said, this is fresh information. We don't have any further information at this point in time, and therefore we can't say more. With that, I'm closing down this topic. Other questions for Marcus? For Marcus, go ahead.
Georgia, I just saw official press release from Commission that Commission suspends visa-free travel for Georgian holders of diplomatic service or official passports. So can you explain for audience what does it mean? It started today, how long it will be? And another part about political part of this situation, I want to ask to Anita also. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the question. As a matter of fact, the Commission has decided to suspend visa-free travel for Georgian holders of diplomatic service and official passports as of today, 6 March, and for an initial period of 12 months. This is the first time that the new visa suspension mechanism is used. The decision follows the approval by Member States. Visa liberalization aims to enhance people-to-people contact and promote shared values, including respect for human rights and democratic principles. And the Commission considers that the actions of the Georgian authorities undermine these principles on which visa liberalization is based. This is inconsistent with the norms and values of the Union. And also what's another important point on this issue is that with the decision today, the Commission has adopted new guidelines for Member States, consulate authorities and border guards to support them in an effective implementation of the decision to suspend visa-free travel. This also means that there will be increased checks on all Georgian nationals crossing the EU's external borders to prevent circumvention of the new measures.
Thank you, Marcus. Follow-up.
So also Hungary and Slovakia will be in line of this policy because they vote against this decision. Thank you.
As a matter of fact, one of the effects of this decision is that bilateral visa exemptions for holders of such passports are no longer possible.
Other questions on this topic for Marcus? On this topic, David, go ahead.
I was wondering if you had commented or you could comment on the Supreme Court of Georgia's decision not to consider an appeal to release journalist Mzia Amaglobeli. I think that was on Wednesday. Thanks.
Thanks, David. That question would fall more into the remit of Foreign Affairs there for Anita, so we'll call her up in a while and she can answer it. But we're going to stick with Marcus for the moment. I see some hands raised online. Zoltan, is your question for Marcus? Zoltan, are you there? Do you have a question for Marcus? Your hand is raised.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Zoltán Bugnyár, Hír TV. The Slovakian Prime Minister urged Ursula von der Leyen yesterday, among other top leaders of the EU, to distance themselves from Zelensky's threat against Orbán, who is blocking the 90 billion euro loan to Kiev. He said he will give his phone number to his lead.
Zoltan, sorry to cut across you, but I'm asking for questions on the topics Marcus covers. I don't think your question is for Marcus. So I'm going to come back to you if that's okay. And I'm going to... And Balash has also unraised his hand. Okay. Are there questions for Marcus on other topics he covers? Here at the back.
Tiago Almeida for the Portuguese news agency. Europol has identified new, increased risks of terrorism threats in the EU soil due to the war in the Middle East. I was wondering what the European Commission intends to do to counter these threats. Thank you.
Thanks very much. This would be also under the realm of Foreign Affairs, so therefore we will wait for our colleagues to come to the floor on this. I don't see other hands for Marcus. Ask your question anyway, we'll just double check. Just ask your question, please, just so we're sure that it's not for Marcus.
The same question again, right? So, yeah, Europol has identified increased risks of terrorism threats to the EU due to the war in the Middle East. I was wondering what the European Commission intends to do to counter these threats. Thanks.
Thanks very much for the question. This was also a question that was raised yesterday at the Justice and Home Affairs Council presser, and Commissioner Brunner replied to it. But let me reiterate maybe the most important points. The Commission is closely monitoring the developments. Our first and biggest priority is the security of Europeans. You will also recall that we had a security college where this topic was addressed earlier this week. We do have strong external border controls, which have been reinforced recently. Let me recall that we have the Schengen information system in place, the EU's common security database, where member states are obliged to create an alert for all cases related to terrorist offences. And the new entry-exit system is an important additional layer of security. It allows us to check who enters and leaves the EU, and it has already enabled the stopping of almost 500 persons that have been assessed as a security threat in the past 5 months. As you know, for the entry-exit system, the gradual rollout is ongoing, and it's important that all member states ensure it is full readiness within the next month when the rollout phase ends.
Thank you, Marcus. Just to flag that Anwar may have some additional elements to complete this answer. We'll bring him up in a little while. But first I'm going to see if there are other questions for Marcus. I don't see hands in the room or online, and therefore we open the floor for other questions. Jorge.
Hello, Olaf. This question is for you because it relates to the President. I know that early this week the President called President Zelensky to discuss, among other issues, the dispute about the Druzhba pipeline. And I wanted to know if you could clarify 3 issues from this call. First of all, did the President ask for access to the damaged section of Druzhba? Second, did she ask Zelensky to provide a detailed timeline on repairs? And third, did she offer any EU assistance, including financial assistance, to accelerate the repairs? Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge. I'm not going to go into the details of what the President did or did not say in her call with President Zelensky. On your last point, I can confirm that the Commission is looking into options to support the resumption of oil supplies, including possible financial support, but we don't have anything beyond that to say at the present moment. Do we have other questions relating to this, Jorge, follow-up?
Yes. The situation right now is that you position yourself as mediator between Hungary and Ukraine to solve the veto of the 90 billion loan, which means a lot for you and for the whole Europe, of course. But the situation is that the tensions keep escalating, right? We're not nowhere close to a solution. And now you say that you want to offer assistance to Ukraine, but you still don't have access to the pipeline. You still don't know what's going on. You still don't know when could it be repaired. So what exactly is the solution right now? Because there's a clock ticking for the loan to be approved, to be released, and we're nowhere close to a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. There was a lot of opinion in that question. And the first point, where you're suggesting we don't know what's going on, we do know what's going on. The fact that I'm not giving you every single detail of every single conversation does not mean we do not know what's going on. We're fully aware of what's going on. We are trying to move this forward. Let me stop a little bit and zoom out and recall what the priorities are here, as you have correctly raised the fact that there is escalation ongoing right now. Our main focus as the European Commission, on behalf of the European Union, at all times in relation to these questions, is the need to stop Russia's aggression against Ukraine. We are very firm on the fact that this is also in the interests of the wider European Union and Europe as a whole, since we need security and stability on the European continent. So our most important objective right now, as you rightly pointed out, is delivering the loan agreed by the European Council, a commitment which we expect all EU leaders to honour. This being said, escalation of rhetoric from all sides is neither helpful nor conducive to achieving the goals I have just mentioned. We are in active discussions with all sides with a view to dialling down the rhetoric and delivering on the objectives I have mentioned. So I hope that makes things sufficiently clear, and I'm happy to take other questions on this topic now. Go ahead.
It's on President von der Leyen schedule. Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, who is also involved in the situation around the Druzhba pipeline, he said that on Tuesday he's going to talk personally to Ursula von der Leyen. And I'm wondering, is the meeting scheduled in Paris or in Strasbourg? And what will be the message the President will convey to Prime Minister of Slovakia?
Thanks very much. I can confirm that we have received a request for a meeting from Prime Minister Fico. We're looking into the President's agenda possibilities, and we should be able to confirm that meeting as soon as possible. I'm not going to go into the details of what they will discuss. I think it's fair to say that the list of topics I have just mentioned will feature highly on the agenda. I'm going to take a question online from Zoltan.
Yes, good afternoon again. My question is also about Robert Fico, who said yesterday or urged actually the leaders, the top leaders of the EU, among them Ursula von der Leyen, is to distance themselves from Zelensky's threat against Orban. who is blocking the $90 billion euro loan. Actually, Zelensky said he will give his phone number, the leader who is blocking, to his soldiers so they can use it and they can use another language. So is the president going to comment on that? Or what is your take when one of the member states' leader is threatened by a third party's leader?
Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. Let me first repeat, at the moment there is a lot of escalating rhetoric and inflammatory rhetoric. We believe that such rhetoric from all sides is neither helpful nor conducive to achieving the common goals we all have here. Specifically in relation to the comments made by President Zelensky, we are very clear as the European Commission that that type of language is not acceptable. There must not be threats against EU member states. And I repeat, we are in active discussions with all sides in this question. Our objective here is to get everyone to calm down a bit, dial down the rhetoric, and deliver on the objectives I mentioned before, which are taking every possible step we can to put pressure on Russia to end its war of aggression, to deliver on the loan for Ukraine, to ensure that our member states have energy security, and the Commission will continue to work calmly and coherently with all sides to ensure that those objectives are met. Do we have other questions on this topic? Here at the back.
Hi, Gerardo from Politico. So you just said that the type of language of President Zelensky is not acceptable. Is it also a way from the Commission to express solidarity to Prime Minister Viktor Orban? Because on the Hungarian side, they're considering this as a threat. So apart from evaluating Zelensky's quote as not acceptable, do you also want to express solidarity to Prime Minister Orban?
Thank you for your question. I have nothing to add to what I previously said. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Roland Papid Népszava. The opposition, the leader of the Hungarian opposition, Péter Magyar, also jumped into this conversation, saying that I expect the leadership of the EU to sever all ties with Ukraine until President Zelensky clarifies his words and apologizes to all citizens of Hungary for this statement. What would you like to say on this? And I also have another question, but I think that was for Thomas, rather.
Thank you for your question. I have nothing to add to what I previously said. Any other questions on this topic before we move on? I see some hands raised online. I can start with you, David.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, David Carretta, Radio Radicale. If I can go back to the basics and what President von der Leyen said in Kiev a couple of weeks ago. She said, we will deliver on the loan one way or the other. Let me be very clear. We have different options and we will use them. I'm wondering... Well, I'm asking you, and it's not hypothetical, which options and when are you going to use it? Thank you.
Grazie, David. I have no updates to provide on this topic at the moment. Other questions on this topic? I can turn to Jan online.
Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you, Jan, but I don't see you.
Oh, it's strange.
Show me your lovely face.
Let me just... Okay, let's see whether it works now. It doesn't work.
Sorry, Jan, I'll have to come back to you. We have other hands raised here. Thanks very much. Lucas de Villepin. Lucas de Villepin, as-tu une question sur ce sujet? No, in that case, okay, allez-y. Go ahead.
Oui, le président iranien Masoud Pezeshkian a affirmé aujourd'hui que une médiation avait été lancée par des pays tiers entre l'Iran et pour essayer de faire dialoguer l'Iran et les États-Unis. Est-ce que l'Union européenne a connaissance de cette médiation et est-elle impliquée dans cette médiation?
Merci Lucas. On est toujours sur le sujet d'Ukraine, donc je vais appeler Anouar bientôt pour répondre à ta question et d'autres questions aussi. Mais on va rester sur le sujet d'Ukraine juste pour voir s'il y a d'autres questions. So I'm coming to Kate online.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, and see you. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay, thank you. It's a follow-up on Jorge's questions about the Druzhba pipeline. You said that the EU does know what's going on. So please could you tell us what evidence the EU has reviewed about the damage to the pipeline? Because the EU has not conducted its own assessment of the damage, and there are different governments making different claims about the state of the damage. So what information are you working with? Thanks.
Thank you, Kate, for the question. I understand why you're asking it, but we're not going to provide any more information at this particular moment in time. Last question on Ukraine. I see Mathieu Bion.
Oui, bonjour, vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Bonjour. En fait, c'est pour revenir à la discussion, notamment la question de David sur les différentes options. Donc, je comprends que tu ne veuilles pas les mentionner, mais est-ce que si tu devais hiérarchiser justement la priorité des travaux au sein de la Commission, est-ce que votre plan A pour débloquer le prêt à l'Ukraine reste justement de trouver une solution concernant les flux de pétrole russe via le duc Druzhba?
Merci Mathieu, mais je n'ai pas de précision à t'offrir au-delà de ce que je viens de dire à David. Donc, je pense qu'on va changer de sujet. Other questions? Oliver.
On Turkey, if I may, foreign policy. First part of it, actually, there's a bit of a rapprochement between the Commission and Turkey. There was the visit of Commissioner Kos recently, and there are sort of tender trials to feel out whether there might be areas of cooperation. One of them seems to be the customs agreement, which is apparently very old, not very modern anymore, and it would be in the interest of both sides to renovate it. Can you tell me, because I think you're the customs person, that I guess would need unanimity within the EU to reform the customs agreement, right? The customs union. And then secondly, a political question, so a foreign policy question. In spite of common interests that Turkey and the EU might have, there's a huge amount of political prisoners, journalists imprisoned. There's, for example, a correspondent for Deutsche Welle who was just imprisoned recently, several weeks ago. How does the European Commission try to get these people out? What do you do when you talk with the Turkish counterparts? Do you just raise it, or do you say, well, if you want the EIB really to start reinvesting in projects in Turkey and so forth, well, that's the quid, and the quo would be that you release these people. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. I will, on the second question, I'll call Marcus up in a while, who's covering for Guillaume. On your first question as regards the customs union, so all I can say is that the Commission, on behalf of the EU, has had intensified engagement with Turkey to discuss the functioning of the customs union, and most recently including a high-level dialogue on trade in July 2025. In our assessment, Turkey has made progress on trade barriers and has taken measures to prevent the circumvention of EU restrictive measures against Russia, which is an ongoing point of discussion. So that's where things stand on the negotiations with the Turks on the customs union. On the legalities, I'll have to check and come back to you. And on the second question, I now call Marcus to the podium.
Thank you, Oliver. Can you repeat? This was on the arrest, right?
Yeah, hi. Well, I mean, it's not specifically only on Deutsche Welle correspondent Uledag, I think that's his name, but more in general, the Turkish regime is throwing the book at anyone who's opposed to it. Might it be Mr. Imamoglu in Istanbul and so forth? Might it be independent publishers? Any critics of the regime are immediately thrown behind bars, and this is not simply a matter of a judiciary and judiciary procedures that you wouldn't want to interfere with. This is a political strategy to silence Erdogan's opponents. So my question would be, as I'm addressing you as a representative of the 2012 Peace Nobel Prize laureate, what does the European Commission do about this? Or is it simply a question of realpolitik and there's a war in Iran now and we can't really deal with these matters?
Oliver, for the precision. What I can say is that we expect Turkey as a candidate country and Council of Europe member to respect media freedom and freedom of expression. These principles must be upheld by Turkey, which has committed to aligning with the EU acquis, the European standards and values. And the latest enlargement report, you can look it up also there, reports on Turkey, recommends that authorities should take steps to restore a safe and pluralist environment that enables the media to carry out their work independently and without fear of reprisals or dismissals. We will continue to closely monitor.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Do we have other questions on this topic for Marcus? Go ahead.
It's not this topic, but it's for Marcus. It's Iceland. It seems that they are going to have a referendum for a possible process of member state become member state, and I'm wondering what happened with what was negotiated before, because they first asked for the entry, then suspended the negotiation, and finally they withdrew the candidacy. So if in case they approve to reach the European Union, what's the process? Thank you.
Thanks very much for the question. We welcome the announcement by the Icelandic authorities on the plan to hold a referendum on the possible resumption of accession negotiations between Iceland and the European Union. Iceland is a close and valued partner of the EU. Our cooperation is already strong and wide-ranging, and we look forward to continuing and further strengthening our close cooperation with the Icelandic authorities. Now, on your second question, as you rightfully say, the negotiations have been stopped at a certain point in time. Now it would be to see if there was a decision from Iceland to take up the negotiations. They could have to be taken up and resumed possibly at this stage. But this is all to be decided.
Thank you, dear Marcus. I don't see any other hands raised for Marcus in the room or online. Therefore, I'm going to call Anouar up. And I will ask Lucas de Villepin to repeat your question. Tu peux répéter ta question sur l'Iran, s'il te plaît.
Les déclarations du président iranien ce matin, qui expliquait qu'il y avait eu des efforts de médiation qui avaient été entamés par certains pays. Est-ce que l'Union européenne a connaissance de ces efforts de médiation et est-elle impliquée?
Bonjour, merci Lucas pour ta question. Je pense qu'il s'agit d'une dépêche de presse qui vient de tomber il y a quelques minutes, donc je vais m'abstenir de commenter ce sujet pour le moment, sans confirmer ni infirmer la chose. En termes de notre position, elle a toujours été très claire. L'Union européenne a toujours été prête à la diplomatie et l'action de la haute représentante l'a toujours montré. Mais à ce stade, je ne vais pas préjuger de cette nouvelle qui vient de tomber. Merci.
Merci, Anouar. And I understand you also want to give a bit more context to the question that was asked earlier. Can you repeat the question, please? No, behind you there.
Yes, concerning terrorism threats, what's your assessment and what is the Commission doing to counter these? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Just to complement what my colleague Marcus said earlier, that we, indeed, as EU, we are in contact with our partners to monitor the impact of the conflict on the terrorist threat landscape. But I would also like to recall, because there is an ecosystem, obviously, in place, that we have put the IRGC, so the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, on the EU terrorist list. So this is also important to recall, which means what? Which means that their funds and assets are frozen in member states, and that it's prohibited for EU operators to make funds or economic resources available to the group. And again, we have listed them also in other regimes to show and recall that we have taken action already beforehand.
Many thanks, Anwar. The other questions for Anwar? Mosa.
Thanks, Olof. Well, I would like to ask an update about the situation at the Rafah border crossing, because we know, I think, that from the very start of the strikes against Iran and the counter-strikes from them, I think that Israel decided to close the border crossing, let's say, raising alleged security reasons, but I don't see how likely it is that Iran would target ballistic missiles against the crossing or Gaza. So I would like to ask, and anyway, we know that the traffic of passengers in both directions was very limited. And now, as we heard, the border crossing is closed. I wonder if EU has tried, let's say, to raise this issue with Israel or protest it against the closing, which could have very negative effects, on the situation in Gaza, especially if it also limits the flow of humanitarian aid. Thank you.
Thanks, Mosey, for your question. Look, Israel has announced that the Rafah crossing point is closed. We, as EUBAM, Rafah, stand ready to redeploy as soon as the crossing point reopens and as soon as the parties allow. This is what I have to say for the time being. Then, in terms of the situation on the ground, obviously, the needs remain as acute as they have always been in terms of the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And obviously, we keep that matter quite at hand. Eva can also share the latest in terms of the numbers. But to also zoom out from the Rafah crossing point and also speak about Kerem Shalom, because the decision has been taken to reopen Kerem Shalom, and we welcome this decision for the crossing of humanitarian aid. Why? Because, as I was saying, delivery of humanitarian aid and access to humanitarian aid is critically important for the Palestinian population in Gaza, and we call for further crossings to be also reopened. So this is our position on the matter.
Thank you, Anwar. Odile.
Oui, en raison de l'escalade très rapide du conflit affectant tous les pays du Golfe, j'aimerais savoir si le service diplomatique de l'Union européenne est en contact avec le Gulf Cooperation Council et éventuellement quelles sont les conclusions d'une réunion éventuelle avec le Gulf Cooperation Council. Merci.
Merci Odile. Je rappellerai que hier, nous avons eu une réunion coprésidée par la haute représentante et par la présidence également bahreïnie du Conseil de coopération des États du Golfe, s'agissant de la situation sur le terrain et des attaques de l'Iran contre les États du Conseil de coopération du Golfe. Pourquoi? Parce que nous avons un partenariat stratégique avec nos partenaires dans le Golfe. Les ministres ont fermement condamné les attaques iraniennes qui sont injustifiables contre les pays du Conseil de coopération du Golfe qui menacent leur sécurité régionale et appelé l'Iran à cesser immédiatement ces attaques. Nous avons exprimé, et la haute représentante a exprimé, sa solidarité avec nos partenaires du Golfe en rappelant notre attachement à la stabilité régionale et en appelant à la protection des civils et au plein respect du droit international humanitaire, ainsi que de l'obligation de respecter les principes de la Charte des Nations Unies. Rappelons également que des dommages importants ont eu lieu dans la région et dans le Golfe, qui ont visé des infrastructures civiles, y compris installations pétrolières et de services ainsi que des zones résidentielles. En termes de diplomatie, cela montre encore une fois que nous sommes fidèlement attachés à la diplomatie vis-à-vis de nos partenaires sur le terrain, afin également de trouver des solutions pour résoudre cette crise-là, puisque cela peut avoir des conséquences sur la sécurité et la stabilité régionale, ainsi que dans notre voisinage. Nous avons rappelé le droit inaliénable des États du Conseil de coopération du Golfe, et ce, conformément à l'article 51 de la Charte des Nations Unies, de se défendre individuellement et collectivement contre les attaques armées de l'Iran. Et en termes d'efforts diplomatiques, ceux-là vont continuer à se maintenir et à s'étendre, tout en rappelant que nous avons 2 opérations dans la vicinité du Golfe arabo-persique, en reconnaissant également l'importance de l'opération Aspides et de l'opération Atalante afin de protéger les voies navigables critiques pour réduire les perturbations en termes de chaîne d'approvisionnement et pour coordonner le soutien des opérateurs. Et la haute représentante l'a également rappelé hier lors de ses remarques en termes de sécurité maritime, et que c'est un sujet de préoccupation sur lequel nous sommes très actifs.
Merci beaucoup, Anouar. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Anouar ici?
Thank you. Kam Mustafaeva, Airport News Agency, Azerbaijan. I'm not sure it's for Anvaro, Anita. It's regarding drone strike to Nakhchivan Airport from Iranian side. Can I ask? Yeah, thank you. Yesterday, HIVP statement said that she talked to Azerbaijani foreign minister, discuss the situation, and could you please share the further details about the conversation and or if you have current engagement with Azerbaijan on the issue, is EU monitoring the situation? Does EU see a risk that such development could affect Armenia and the Azerbaijan peace process? Link between mainland Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan via Armenia is a key component of this peace deal. And more broadly, if tensions were escalated in South Caucasus, do you see risk for regional transport corridor and energy routes that are important to supply to the EU? But probably it's not for you, the last part. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I will take the first angle on Iran, and then my colleague Anita will be happy to join. We have been very clear. We condemn Iran's indiscriminate strikes as they took place in the Gulf, in Turkey, and also in Azerbaijan. And the High Representative said it herself that these drone strikes in Azerbaijan are totally unacceptable. They are a further escalation by Iran and raise the prospect of the war spreading beyond the Middle East. She has indeed been in touch with the Foreign Minister Bayramov to underline the EU full solidarity with the government and the people of Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Anouar. Do we have other questions for Anouar on foreign affairs? Don't see any hands raised. Do we have other questions on other topics before we wrap up for the weekend? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vibor Vlajnic, Croatian Radio Television. It's a bit connected to something from before. So Hungarian mall company submitted a formal complaint to DG Competition against the Adria pipeline, the Croatian pipeline company. It alleges abuse of monopoly position. It's connected because Adria pipeline is another route for Hungary to get oil while Druzhba is not working. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Question for Ricardo. Join me on stage, Ricardo, that'd be great. And sorry, just to say as well, the question on Azerbaijan, Anita will come up afterwards to give the additional perspective on that. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. I'm afraid that at this stage I don't have a lot to say. What I can do is I can confirm that we have received the complaint and that we will, of course, be assessing said complaint under our standard procedures in this matter.
Thank you, Ricardo. Follow-up.
Yeah, just a short follow-up. Can we expect any timeline, any specific dates on your accession?
You can expect us to work as quickly as possible to assess the complaint on its legal and factual basis.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Do we have other questions for Ricardo? I see hands raised online. Are they for Ricardo? No. In that case, I will ask Anita to come up to respond to the previous questions relating to Azerbaijan and Georgia. Thanks very much, Anita.
Can you repeat the question on Georgia?
As you know, Georgian Dream adopted repressive amendments to already repressive law against civil society, media, NGOs, and also to business. So how can you estimate this step? And on another hand, sometimes we hear from Georgian Dream members that they are open to reload relations with EU. So what's the conditions, which steps are needed for this? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, on the legislative package, we have been very clear on this, that this restricts the country's democratic and civic space. It also sets a very extensive control over the political activity in the country. And its vague provisions also create profound legal uncertainty and also major risk of arbitration and selective enforcement. And linking this to the previous question also on the detention of Misia Moglobeli, we have strongly condemned her sentencing to prison. Her sentencing also shows the repression against independent voices, and journalists must be able to carry out their work without fear of persecution or undue restraint. So the actions of the authorities targeting and silencing independent media also undermine the very foundation of democracy and also contradict Georgia's international obligations and run counter to the European aspirations of the Georgian population. So we demand her release and as well as of all those unjustly detained, and we continue to stand with the Georgian people and their European aspiration. In the meantime, we have seen also the Georgian Dream actions have consequences, as my colleague Marcos has also expressed on the podium. Yes, on Azerbaijan, I will just add on this point that we have been also clear in our support to the normalization process between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and we have been working for years with both parties and international partners to create the conditions in place for a lasting peace.
Thank you, Anita. Do we have other questions for Anita on foreign affairs? I don't see hands raised in the room, therefore I will go for the last question to Paula Tamma.
Thank you, Olaf. My question is about the decision by the US to waive sanctions on Russian oil to allow India to stock up. Does this measure contravene the G7 oil price cap? And generally, how does the EU see this decision? Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. This one is for Siobhan. Go ahead, Siobhan.
Thanks, Paula. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that the Commission has no specific comment, of course, on the U.S.'s decision to waive sanctions for India. That's for the U.S. authorities to provide any feedback or comment on. On your second question on the oil price cap, actually, I would have to get back to you on that in all honesty. I do know, of course, when it comes to a price cap, we do work in the context of the G7, and obviously with our partners there on coordinating sanctions as much as possible. So that's a point that we can discuss later.
Many thanks, Siobhan. We've been going for a full hour, folks, so I think it's the right time to conclude now. One small precision from my colleague Eva. There has been an additional request for activation of the civil protection mechanism, which means we're now up to 18. So please reach out to her bilaterally for updates. It's a very fluid situation, as you know. And with that, we thank you. We wish you a good weekend. All the best.